Or have it be up there with a golf ball and drive it. No, right. So 10 is infrastructure and sustainability reports. 10.1 infrastructure and environment monthly updates. The usual monthly updates of what's been going on. Any questions there? Thanks, Councillor Collins.
How'd we go with our friends at the Gawler River Floodplain Management Authority?
Through the Mayor, thank you. So we wrote the council along with council's resolution and also enacted a dispute resolution process. So it's currently in that process and we're waiting for a response. The initial feedback was that under the charter we missed the time frame, which is to respond within 2 months is deemed to be approved, but that's a discrepancy from the letter that was submitted to council to get our position in by May. So there's a bit of a dispute there. Notwithstanding that, we've asked for a genuine conversation around it, and I'll be able to report back once we've had that.
Councillor Alderson.
Thanks, Mayor Bill. I was just having a question, page 10. Did you get a reply back from DIT on our stop sign? I see you've written to them. I just wondered if you've heard.
No response yet, but the idea of having the correspondence from a council resolution is when we get the letter, we bring it back to the council, so you'll have closure. Yep.
Councillor Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Bill. My question is just in relation to the INE report. So how do we go with sealing Ebenezer? Did we get that done? Haven't been up to check.
Through the chair, Ebenezer Road sealing has been postponed twice due to the weather. The College Bethel Road's been sealed. College Road is hoping to be sealed next week. The sealing contractor has been told College Road is a priority because of the nature of the stabilisation, and then they'll go back to Ebenezer.
Okay, no further questions? So we come back to 10 infrastructure and sustainability reports. Any questions there? Good to see the roads are being graded. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. There's a recommendation on the page, bottom of page 16. Yes. Thank you, Councillor. The council receives the sustainability reports. Is there a second to that? Councillor Simon, all in favour? It's carried. Thank you. So we then move to 12, reports for information, local government election timelines. Corey, if you would like to mention any of those, they're pretty straightforward.
Thank you. Through the chair. Yes, the timelines report is so that we can give as much information prior to the elections, but also I guess the big thing is that we want to be able to give as much training and information to the current members before the election, before we go into caretaker mode. So once you've had a look at that, if you've got any questions about it, I'm happy to talk to them.
Just don't forget the dates if you're going to re-nominate. Make sure you get them in on time. Thanks, Corey. (12.2) NTX updates. What we heard report volume 2 project update and project assessment draft report. Kynan, do you want to comment on this? No? Are there any questions to Kynan? Darryl, would you like to comment about the meeting, or Councillor Collins, one of us, about the meeting with Tenders Question?
From a CEO's perspective, through the mayor, I'll comment. We got called to a community meeting and there was myself, Mayor and Councillor Colin in attendance.
Councillor Peter too.
And Councillor Peter, okay. That's all the people I could see because there's about 150 odd people there. In terms of talking about the process, and I think it's fair to say that council should at least have an acknowledgement that there is some community concern out there. The take homes from that meeting is that the community were rallying around forming a bit of a committee to have a look at it, to delve deeper, and I'd expect at some point they would probably come and engage with council either at an operational level or at a council level. And I think just that we're open to be available for any conversations and support, to make sure that they get at the very least line of sight with what's happening, some consistency around engagement, and certainly to make sure that it's in bright lights so people know what's happening out there.
Thank you. Now, I'll seek leave. Councillor Kennelly has moved a motion without notice. I'll seek leave of the council to bring it forward because it refers to the NTX. Councillor Peter, do you want to bring it forward or not? Do you want to leave it?
Yes.
Would you like to read it or would you like me to read the motion? Have we got copies of it? You haven't got copies of it? Caitlin, is it going up on the screen? I'll read if you like, Peter. That council recommends Electranet to route the proposed NTX transmission line through marginal Sudan Cambrai country instead of premium agricultural land in the light council area. Would you like to speak on that, Councillor Peter?
So I think that as far as, thank you. As far as agriculture goes in our district, the NTX proposal really carries a lot of potential problems for current agricultural practices. For instance, most modern tractors now have GPS connections and they use GPS. 275 kilovolt lines are going to interfere with that. Also, the tendency to use larger tillage and spraying equipment is potentially hazarded by transmission towers. The compulsory access of authority employees to the transmission lines to the towers is a problem. The transmission lines represent a problem to aerial agriculture. There's a lot of seasonal spraying done by air, and also there's an increasing use of drones for agriculture, and two problems there. Firstly, striking the conductors, and secondly, the radio interference with their radio control. And anyway, there's another problem too, and typically vehicles travelling along the line of towers potentially can bring weeds in. And as an instance, I don't know what it is, 20 or 30 years ago, my Land Rover managed to pick up caltrop from Roseworthy College
Doubt that.
and brought it home. And we still had, where we parked it in that area, we still haven't got over the residue of that caltrop infection. And so if there have to be access, or there has to be access by the transmission line people, there are a number of problems there. And I think myself that it would be best to suggest to them that they explore a further option for using the marginal land in the Sedan Cambrai area. It's grazing land at the best, and is not going to interfere with our very productive agricultural country.
Thanks, councillor Peter.
Mm.
Is there a seconder to councillor Peter's motion? Councillor Collins, just turn your button off, please, councillor Peter.
How are you getting to Adelaide from Cambrai? So what you're suggesting is that we move it to Sedan or to Cambrai and then come back over the hills through the orchards, and we're just causing someone else a problem, are we? Like if we are to do your suggestion, or you're suggesting we hook it into existing assets that Electranet already owns, or are you suggesting new power line from Sedan to Adelaide? Because Adelaide is where the power is to go.
Electranet hasn't been forthcoming with details of what they're going to do. They've talked about, I think, up to 5 options. They repeatedly said that we're considering, and we've got yet to make a choice. And in a way, if you wanted to be nasty, you'd say that they hadn't been forthcoming. And on the other hand, a charitable view would be that the matter is still under consideration. But there are almost insuperable problems as far as our high yielding agricultural land. And additionally, I surmise they're doing it at minimum cost, and their payment to landholders will be a once-er, won't be a rental, will be a one-off payment, bang. They've now, I suppose, registered their entitlement on the certificates of title, and all in all, I say roll on Thursday, where I see we have
Another session. Councillor, but I'll just cut you off there because you've had your first go and that was an answer to the question.
yeah.
So just, is there anyone to second the motion? Councillor Ellison, you'd like to speak on the motion? All right, anyone like to speak against the motion? I hate to do this, councillor, but you've got a right of return. I think you've had your right of return.
Yes.
I think we'll put the motion. Oh, sorry, just put your thing on, councillor Martin.
I understand that councillor Peters' concerns, but everywhere I go in Australia, I see big power pylons and power transmission getting from point A to point B. And at some stage, those people have had to put up with it, and they still do. Electranet will come and acquire whatever they want when they want. And I know we can say shove it somewhere else, but I think this is a little bit early because we're going to have a briefing from them again on June the 9th.
28th, this Thursday.
So what's on the, oh, that's another one on the 9th. Yep. Sorry, yeah. So I just think it's beyond our remit to, oh, now we can tell them that that's what we want, but if we haven't looked at all the other options, and you guys have been dealing with this for years and I haven't, I'm not in favour at this point in time.
It is that all we can do is say that this is what we want. They don't have to listen to us, but it's Councillor Peter wants to make, this is the council's suggestion that they look somewhere else. That's what he's trying to get the council to say. So, Councillor Michael?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Bill. I kind of sympathise with Councillor Martin's remarks in that, you know, this project is much bigger than Light Regional Council, and it'll happen to us if those that want it to happen want it to happen. Setting that aside, it's clear that there's, you know, sentiment in the community that you know, the proposed routes, you know, unfavourable to our agricultural industry. What I'm not clear on, and kind of see where Councillor Collins coming from, is why Sedan. And I mean, I know there's a battery going up near Palmer with the wind farm up there, but I don't. Why have you chosen that? Why be so specific and instead encourage a route that doesn't impact on, as we've done with the GARP and other things before, prime agricultural land, something more generic? I could probably support this one. I'm a bit like Colin. I'm not sure what happens after that. It goes over the hill and becomes someone else's problem.
Oh, Darryl, yeah. That's,
Yeah, through the chair, without consideration either way, I think that there's a community group at the moment that are getting active, and I think we should provide that opportunity to see what the request of the community is and to be able to listen to them. So perhaps with whatever you consider, it might be that we invite them to brief council on their perspective or what they deem to be the solution as well.
okay, so is any more discussion? There's no more discussion. I'll put the motion. All those,
Yes,
Councillor Martin?
maybe just in view of what the CEO's suggested, to maybe, I'm not sure where this is going to end up, but maybe to salvage it in a form, Councillor Peter be more willing to amend this to encourage a deputation from this community group about what their preferences are. That's not sort of wasted if it doesn't go that way.
Yep. Councillor Peter, would you like to change your motion or amend it to include deputation from the community group that's being formed?
I would agree to adding something to the motion without notice, to the effect that council would welcome comment from affected landholders, agriculturalists.
It's a very broad area, the council.
It is.
I think it's unrealistic to get that sort of. Yeah, I think if there's a committee formed to speak on, I think they're the ones that we should get information from.
All right.
Darryl?
Yeah, through the chair, I tend to agree, because what we don't want to do is be replicating the engagement that we're not responsible for, which is ultimately the Electranet's engagement, although outsourced. If we then start to invite comment, we start to do a secondary engagement process, and I'm not sure that's the intent of this, and unless of course you want to pursue that. But I think you should be really deliberate with what we're actually doing. Given that there is a group that is formed, maybe the first point of call is to actually listen to that group and see how they're progressing and what support, if any, they want from council or what they're proposing. I think personally, it's a good opportunity to listen first, but And we also do have the briefing this Thursday, I think it is.
Thursday.
Yes.
So that's a good touch point then to see what the response is from Electronet, knowing that there's this community concern and how they're going to deal with that. So perhaps this is one that might benefit from a bit more information.
Yes, I think your advice is good, and I'm glad to take it. We shouldn't rush into this, and anyway, there it is. I don't know.
Suggestion there, Peter, you could withdraw the motion, bring about another meeting, or we could have a motion to postpone it until that meeting.
I think if we postpone it at least until after we're briefed on Thursday, and then we can invite the committee to make its comments.
Corey, how do we go about doing that?
That's what councillor Peter would like to have done. We can postpone it. It could potentially lay on the table. It could be adjourned, or he could withdraw it for now if he'd.
Yeah, through the chair, what that would generally require is another member to put a motion to adjourn it to a specific date or time or outcome. So maybe you would adjourn it till after the briefing with NTX and briefing with community has occurred or something like that, which is a specific event. But you'd need, because you've moved that, I believe somebody else would need to move that. Please.
Councillor Martin,
I'll move that.
thank you. Someone like to second that? Councillor Dean? All in favour? That's carried. So that motion is adjourned till after the meeting on the 28th. And the committee is, and with the committee. You're right, Corey, with all that? Thank you. Notwithstanding that the NTX is a huge impost on our council ratepayers and is a major concern amongst a lot of people. As with 150 people turned up was quite unhappy people, a lot of unhappy people, a lot of uninformed people too. I'll probably say that as well. You won't get into that now, Cass. Right, 12.3, funding for South Australian Public Libraries. Pepper's got a flags waving. Would you like to make some comments, Pepper?
Technology. See, that's why we need more funding in libraries for digital skills. No, it was just more to, through the chair, to raise awareness that the funding agreement between the state government and the LGA is due to expire at the end of June. And so those negotiations have been continuing between those two bodies. Notably, in the last agreement or this current agreement, CPI wasn't included, and therefore the LGA have sort of indicated that councils across South Australia have lost or collectively lost more than 11.5 million in grant funding. And where we're seeing that have an impact, I guess, is with our statewide one card system and costs going up, like the courier system. And we know that fuel has also gone up there. So this is just to raise awareness, really, that the LGA have been doing a campaign to raise awareness of the need for the funding to not be dropped, but also to look to get the CPI or indexation included in the next agreement. Not sure how that will go. But the LGA have also been encouraging councils and libraries to advocate for what services are offered. Predominantly the funding from the state government goes to the collections that we have in across our libraries, but also the state government Department of or Public Library Services, which supports the libraries across the state. But yeah, it's more just from that awareness perspective, and that I guess if the state government do reduce their costings, what impacts that might have on our local communities going forward. So that's, yeah, bit of the update there.
Thanks, Pepper. Any questions to Pepper? I've just got one, Pepper. If is advocacy from this council of any advantage, or what are you looking for? Anything we can do?
Look, if the council would like to write to the Minister for Arts or the Assistant Minister for Arts, that may assist. That's what some other councils have been doing. I know Port Adelaide Enfield Council have done one in April. So yeah, that is an option that council can do to try and advocate in there, because I guess if the state don't increase the costings or reduce the costings, then either services are impacted to community or council pick up the cost, which again is impacting the local community as well. So that is something that could be done, just to flag that there.
Is it coming up at the LGA conference, this talk?
I don't know. I do know that the LGA are meeting with the Minister for Arts in mid-June, and this funding topic is one of their key areas that they will be talking with them about. I think there's about 4 others in there as well. So, yeah.
Thanks, Pepper. Is there any interest in the council to write a letter to the relevant minister? Good on you, Colin. Is it seconded to Colin's suggestion that we write Councillor Michael? Councillor Martin, all in favour? Good. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks, Pepper. 12.4, 10-tonne load limit, Ashwell Road and Stockport Road. This is quite a long ongoing problem in the Wasleys area. Are there any questions to the report? Excellent report from Megan, by the way. No questions? We have a recommendation on the bottom of page 31 that the reports for information be received and the contents therein be noted by council. Move Councillor Collins, seconded Councillor Peter. All in favour? That's carried. Okay, sure. Okay, all right. Just push the button, Colin, please.
So we just did the report, but should we have a motion without notice to approve one of these recommendations? One of the, to maintain no load limit?
If you want something to be acted on, you need to put a motion out.
Okay.
Otherwise the signs will be removed as according to the report.
But if the signs be removed, does that mean that the maintain of no load limit will be the status quo? That's what that is saying. So
Yes.
so we don't have to move a motion saying that we're going to adapt, maintain no load limit.
No, but
Good. That's why I'm just making sure that we're clear.
So this will remove the signs saying no load limit.
Yep. But we don't need
A motion to say that, no.
resolution.
But if you
saying
wanted
that
to put a sign up, you'd need a motion to put it.
Right, I see. Yep, good.
All right, are we all happy? Okay. So did we have that motion moved? We did, didn't we? Yeah, okay. 13 is reports for decision. Waiver of fees for the renewal of the historical interment rights of Dr. Otto Schomburg burial plot. This is down near me in the Bookfielder cemetery. Thanks, councillor Mogg, seconded councillor Allison. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you. (13.2) is the draft light Regional Council Kapunda Greenock Freeling Car Park Scheme funding contribution determination. This has been another football we've kicked around the place, and it looks like we've got it to a good spot, I think. Are there, Craig will speak, I've written there. Do you want to ask any questions first, or do you want? Are there any questions? Councillor Simon?
Yes, through Mayor. I do a couple of questions. One question there, the $500. I think, as I understand it correctly, the reasoning for not having that lower, as in for developments that are just repurposing an existing building and we're not extending floor area or whatever. I think the thing was so that it wouldn't lead to speculation or something. I think that was the argument in there. Can you clarify that somehow?
Yeah, through the chair. So we've taken a economic development approach, if you will, to try and foster further growth. Wasn't so much speculation for the $500 number. That was more about the use of an existing building without recognising if there's no additions to the building, but you're changing land use. So you might be going from a particular land use, I'll say a shop, to a consulting room. There might be a change and it requires an additional parking space or two. In that circumstance, you're not changing the floor space. You'd look at a nominal fee, and we settled on the $500 number as our recommendation. But I think the part that, if I understand, Councillor Simon, you're looking at is if you've got a situation where someone is taking a building and making it a significant addition to that building, we think there's a case for supporting that person or that developer still is required to achieve the car parking number or go closer to achieving that number. So we've settled on the number in that circumstance being the $37.50. Now that's embedded in the attachments. Recommendation is the approval of the attachments. Equally, that would also apply if it's a vacant site and it's redevelopment of a new building. So we're looking for a circumstance there where you're not having a developer simply go boundary to boundary without providing any car parking by having the high number. I think that's answers your question about speculation, or?
Not really. So the question was more about how that $500 come up, because it might be now that this could be lower, this could be $50, because in the end, it's all about encouraging development on Main Street to enliven our Main Street. So we want to put that burden down as low as we can. And if there's no extra floor space created, then there's really, that to me, there's no reason why anybody needs to pay for extra car parking. It's literally just a mechanism to be able to approve an application that by the code would need extra car parking. But the reality on the road usually is that there's enough car parking anyway, and we really council doesn't need to build new car parks to make this possible. It's just this car parking fund is an option to go around the code saying it needs car parks, and we're saying, okay, you pay $50 into this car parking fund and you can go with the development anyway. So to me, I don't see why it needs to be 500. It's low because we want to encourage, but in my opinion, it could be even lower. I just wondered that 500, why is it, in my opinion, that high for somebody that doesn't actually change any floor area?
Okay, sorry, I can respond to that as well. The $500, well, sorry, first two parts, the change in the land use that I'm talking about would still create a demand. So you're still looking at an impact on the on-street car parking. So it's a case of having a number that would go towards a fund to address that at some future point in time. But the $500 number itself, we've just selected based on some other examples. If the council had the council has a choice to make that a lower number as an example, if it wants to do that. We've just found a line that we thought was worth recommending and something which we could support based on comparison. But it's an economic development approach. So yeah, sorry, Darryl, I think you.
Yeah, through the chair, if I may. When I first come on board, this is one of the angst that a number of elected members put to me, is that how do we enliven our main streets, and car parking is a real barrier. So I'd like to commend the staff for working through this and coming up with an option. In terms of that $500, I guess there's two parts to that. One is you've got to put yourself in the mind of the minister and what they'll accept, because the next part is this has to go to the minister and what will they accept. So will they accept $50? They may. Will they not? I'm not sure. And the other part is even though there still is, you want to activate it, you want to make sure landlords can get the vacancies, you can get, the betterment of the community, you want all that type of stuff as well, but you still want them to consider the design and all the other elements and to take planning seriously as well. So disabled toilets and all those other ancillary needs. So it's a matter of finding a dollar figure that you think absolutely promotes activation, and also that you think the state would accept in terms of positioning that alongside other councils. So there was a bit of benchmarking around that, and that's where they landed at that number.
Thanks, Darryl. Councillor Michael.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Bill, it's a bit, often a bit of a tangent, but so I mean, this obviously applies to these designated areas. So what happens when stuff starts to move in Roseworthy, over time with, future commercial developments and things like that? So they'll be assessed based on having enough parking in those particular developments as opposed to paying or fund, is that?
Yeah, so through the chair, it is zone-based in terms of the application. Roseworthy to date has been master planned township zone, so it is one zone across, not the activity centres that we're targeting. But it is a system that's set up to be flexible as well. So there is the ability to review, change, add zones in the future or areas of zones potentially, but that's all subject to the minister's agreement. Yeah, so in the case of a future Roseworthy application, we would have to look at that at an appropriate point in the future.
They would have the same costings as we're proposing now.
Well, again, through the chair, I think in that circumstance, you'd be looking at the new building approach in terms of a shortfall, so you'd apply a higher number.
Yeah, 3750.
Because you're not talking about reuse of existing building stock, and in particular the heritage building stock, which we've been mindful of how you try and encourage and facilitate ongoing active reuse of those buildings.
Okay, any more, Councillor Cole?
Yeah, I'll just eating quickies actually, but couple of things with Darryl. So the only things that have happened in the main street in the last 4 years is we gave a rebate. So we really know what the amount is people pay, and it's pretty or nothing. Once we paid the rebate, we had a gymnasium done, the pub did the thing. So, but before that, nothing had happened for years, because every time council would give a car park $3,750 thing, and they'd need 6 car parks which are in the air, they're not even existing, people would say no. So this has been going on for a long time. So I don't agree either that this has been driven by the people in the main street through the chamber to get a result. And I agree with some, $500 is too much. If you start a business in the main street and the shop's been shut for 2 years, and then you're charging $500 or him or her $500 for a car park that is not even existent, it's just going to continue with the status quo of having a dead main street. So we got to do something. And that was the whole idea of why we introduced this in the first place, was to go to the minister and ask if we could do a variation. And I just think it's too expensive. I think you just got to make it nearly, as Simon said, $50 for people in an existing shop. And then if you've got a new development, especially if it's a greenfield site like the supermarket, you can make it as big as you want. And Roseworthy, they're all greenfield sites, so everyone's going to supply a car park. And also with a greenfield site or any site in Kapunda, they can, if you make them build 30 car parks and they supply 20, that's the only time they only need to put 10 into the fund. So I just don't agree with the numbers.
Through the chair, I think that, so there was certainly a statement and a question. If you don't agree with the numbers, you've got the prerogative as a council to put forward the numbers that you desire. So that's what the purpose of the report is for you to make a decision. And you're quite right in that there's the lens in terms of what will the minister accept, but there's also the lens on what will it take to enable our main streets to be thriving and active. And that's a decision in front of council with this report.
Yeah, that's right. But the problem with the minister is he's killed most main streets in the state, in small country towns where they've applied the parking fund. It hasn't worked. It's worked in the city. It's worked in it's a great thing for Gawler. But it's just crazy for country towns that are, you know, really battling to get, you know, how many missing teeth in the main street of Kapunda? You know, too many. So how do you encourage that? You don't encourage it by charging $500 for a car park for someone to use an old building, which is second rate probably anyway.
I think the point Daryl's making is that if we want to change it, this is our chance to put it in a different level in the recommendation. So that's probably something to look at. Councillor Michael.
So just to Councillor Collins' point, I mean, the staff have put in here that, you know, as a way, as an economic development incentive, we may wish to reduce the contribution rate to 50%, which replaces the higher figure. But does that deal, the $500 figure isn't mentioned there though?
No, through the chair, that's right. That was put as a potential alternative proposal if council wanted to make the decision consciously to look at that for the higher number. We haven't looked at the $500 figure though.
I've got another question as well. What are the shop owners? The commercial shop owners' rates are quite high. What are they? So there's no contribution to the car parking for that. What do they actually get in the main street for their rates?
So there's two questions in that. In terms of, is there a council contribution to the car parking? Well, at that point in time in a decision, that could be a request and go to council to make that decision. In terms of how you activate the main street, there's a number of levers you can pull. You can actually have incentives, you can have grants, you can have a range of things that we haven't looked at to incentivize people to come here. You could actually have a waiver of rates for a period of time or in an initial honeymoon period. There's a number of ways of unpacking that. What certainly from my first time here, the car parking was a barrier, and putting this to council to make that decision, however you go, if you want to go lower, then that's totally supported by the administration as well. But it looks like we've found an avenue to potentially at least alleviate one period of concern. As far as what do people get for their rates, well, it's the same as everybody in that it's not a opt-in service. So people in the main street pay for playgrounds, for netball courts, for a whole range of services that attract tourists that also support people that live locally around the area and thriving communities. So there's no one answer for that in terms of what do people specifically get.
Yeah,
But if you want to put that down, by all means, you'll do that, and that will be fully endorsed and supported by the administration.
I concede what you're saying. I know what rates go into, but the point I'm making is, so I've got rural roads going past my place which I pay rates and they're maintained to a pretty good standard. The road that goes down the main street is a dip road. We supply the footpaths, but they're not really. But you'd think that embedded in some of the rates they pay would be a proportion of that would go towards a car park, which the patrons of their shops or whatever they go to would help.
I think final comment from me, I think if you wanted to look at incentives, that's a matter for reviewing the economic development policy, which if you are going to provide some type of incentive for car parking, I think it's standalone to this report, because this report is about changing under the PDI Act, which is separately assessed. So if you want us to bring back a report around how we can alter that policy and incentivize the main street, happy to do that as well.
Okay, Councillor Martin.
Just a question, Craig. We've had it from the CEO, and he said, you know, we can take it as low as we want. We can put up there. I'd like to make it as low as we can, the absolute minimum, because this main street is not going well. And I think if you're going to start a business and you say, look, yeah, we want 4 or 5 or 6 car parks, if it's 6, well, that's over $20,000. And you go, no, let's just go the opposite direction. We really want to make it, you know, if it is $50, it's $50. I'm happy to get that out, but can we do that?
Well, as CEO Darrell's outlined, the number that goes in at that point of the scheme can be whatever the agreement is with the chamber, but with the caveat that it's not necessarily what the minister will support. And I haven't tested that in terms of approaching the minister directly, obviously at this point, with the intent of coming back here to say, well, the number we put in as a placeholder is significantly higher. The department has said, well, you have the flexibility. Here's some suggestions based on what other councils have done previously. We've simply looked at that and said, we like the model of the 500 for the existing built form. Bearing in mind, this applies not just to Kapunda, but would be for Greenock and Freeling as well. And a higher figure for a new building. Now, the chairman might say, we want that 500 figure to be whatever, $100, $50. We would say stick closer to the 500. It would be my recommendation. But absolutely, it's a decision of the council. Equally, with the second number, we've provided a rationale where the 3750 can go to 2,500, built around 50% of what we know to be the cost of providing a car park. So it's informed by some recent examples. But again, that number could be whatever the council would like. We would simply take that decision, put that into the scheme, submit that to the minister, and see what the response is.
Councillor Martin.
Yeah, so if we don't go to 50 up, the message I'm receiving from both the CEO and yourself, Craig, are that if we went to 50, that would not get up. Well, no, it may not get up. I mean, I'm a gambling man, but I don't think 50 is going to be the go, but they do want an amount. But if we halved those two figures and had 250 and 1750, would that be low enough? Anybody else?
Councillor Simon.
First, a question that the one before, maybe I didn't ask it properly because then I didn't find the spot. Now I did. In your the height of that $500, when you said when it's in the same business, we're not changing gross leasable area. Then you write here where only the use of a building change is reasonable for any contribution required under the draft scheme and fund to be a nominal contribution. So nominal, to me, that's just means small. Yeah, high enough to prevent land use speculation. So what do you mean by that? That was actually the original question. Can you clarify that? What means high enough to prevent land use speculation? That would be page 38. So to me, that seems an argument why it needs to be 500 and not 250 or 50 or 0.
Second paragraph, is it?
Second dot point.
Yeah, sorry about that, through the chair while I was looking at the detail. Look, in terms of the number and the high enough to prevent land use speculation, like I said, we've picked a number that we believe fits the right mould in terms of certainly being a lesser number than the 3750, okay? But enough to say, well, if you are doing a change in land use, which in terms of the planning code can mean could be 2 or 3 car parking spaces, you're encouraging something which is fitting of the build form that's there. So whether it's 500, whether it's 250, whether it's an amount, I imagine the minister would look at it and say, well, $50 probably is, what's the point of almost doing $50 in terms of the administration of that? 500 is saying, well, it's a commitment to doing something with the building and then an amount towards upgrading of car parking, but certainly not the same as if you're actually expanding the area that's a gross leasable area that's affected. I'm not sure if I'll answer the question there either, but in terms of the figure, in terms of whether that's nominal or not, it's a point that we've selected. If the belief of the council is that nominal means a lesser number, this is simply a matter of nominating that number, $300, 250, 150.
Councillor Coleman.
Do we want to fix this problem or not? Like, this has been 4 years of doing this. Like $500 is, it just really frustrates me that we're still going around and around and around. And why can't we do it discretionary every year? Every time we do the budget, we set the amount for the car park. We could say, the main street's full, we make it $2,000. The main street's empty, we make it nothing. Just do it discretionary, and it's not on individuals. We set it every year on the budget, like we do our rates. You say to the minister, we'll set this ourselves, we'll set this as demand requires, or the lack of demand requires, and then we can do it that way, rather than putting $500 in, because I'm telling you now, if you do $500 on existing, on a little, someone who's just going to open a Vietnamese restaurant or something like that, you whack $500 on them, you say you need an extra 5 car parks, they're going to say, oh, sorry, I'm not going to do it, because it's just happened for years. And the only time we got anything to happen in the main street was when council put in 160K. That cost us 160,000 to do the car parks of To Be Nourished and the pub. That's the only development that's happened since I've been on council. And we paid for it because no one would pay for the car parking fund. And here we are discussing the same thing with the same problem. It just, we just can't put that amount in if you want to fix the main street of Kapunda.
Well, I suggest you put in a different amount, Councillor Collins, into the recommendation. I mean, the only other option is, as CEO was saying, is we give them a grant, a starting up grant, which counteracts that parking fee, which is separate to Councillor Simon.
Is there the possibility to have a discretion, or that we can set it every year with the budget? Is that seems to me like quite a good option?
I don't believe so. I haven't asked the minister's office, I haven't asked the department, but it doesn't appear to be something which is featured in the legislation.
So
then what we could do right now is we just pick some numbers now. We say $50 for the lower one, and as Martin said, $17.50 for the higher one. Just put that in. I'm happy with that.
okay, well, if we're looking at this, Councillor Martin,
I'm happy to move that.
you're going to move that? So you
57,
put it
50.
for the in section part 2 of the recommendation, attachment 3.
I mean, part of me says we should have 0 for the other one, like Colin Ross says. If you say there should be something, it's the only problem with $50 is it's not worth the staff or whoever it is sending an invoice out to collect it, because it's 30 minutes work. Or
Through the chair, whatever you put in there, if it's $50, if it's $0, then we'll follow the process and see where that comes back. I mean, and we'll put our best contribution to it in the fact that, you know, it is, we need to have an active main street. We do need to encourage development in that area, and the new builds are the ones that have the capacity and ability to confront that problem differently. So we're not vehement on any number. What we did is we found a problem that cost $170,000, and we've done a solution that if this occurred at that point in time, it would have been a hell of a lot less, and it might have encouraged business. Now, if we've got that figure wrong, and you want to encourage business in a different manner, well, we're not wedded to the figure, but the process where the minister has to approve it is something we can't change.
Have we found the right spot, Corey? Red, Councillor Dean.
Just a question. If we put in what we think is needed, like 0 for the existing ones, and maybe go for the 2,500 rather than 3,750, and the minister said that's not enough, I'll presume then it comes back to us and we can say, and maybe get some guidance in the meantime, what the minister would accept. But if we put in what we want to, let's see what happens.
No comment on that? Yep. Councillor Ross?
Why don't we just take it off? Take using existing buildings without adding to the floor area, just get rid of it. Just put involving a new building, just get rid of the first one. Just piss it off, and then just have the second one, because the second one's that's what we're trying to. If you want money, that's what you're trying to catch. The first one, they're not going to take on a small shop with any money, so just all the existing ones, don't wait them, just leave it out.
Councillor Simon, sorry.
Yes, but we should not take the first one off because the first one makes it only possible that somebody small can actually have a change of land use without providing car parks that the code requires them to do. So we need to have it, but for 0 would be good. For $50, that's just because we're talking about a contribution of 0 is just not really reasonable in my opinion. So we need to have something there. I mean, $1 would be good. Something has to be a figure in my opinion. So that's why I would go for the flip-flop. We cannot take it off because then that would completely destroy the option of people actually opening little shops because the code requires 10 car parks, and if you don't have it, then you can't do it. So this is a way of encouraging people to do stuff that they otherwise couldn't do. So we need to have it.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe
Yes, Michael.
can
Sorry.
I just propose an amendment then that we amend the first one to 50 and the second one to 2,500 and put it to a vote and get on with it.
Thank you. Just wait for Corey. Is there a second to that motion, that recommendation that we move 50 and 2,500? Okay, is there a second to that position? Councillor Martin? Yes, Councillor Dean? Craig?
Through the chair, the numbers are fine, but just in terms of the endorsing all 6 part F of the table, you might as well with adding $50 for the using the existing.
What page is that?
Just in terms of what's up there with part 3 that's proposed. I was just going to suggest after $50.
Yeah.
Just put in brackets using existing building. And the other for new building, just so it's absolutely clear.
Okay, yep. I'll just put the change. Yeah, right. So,
It's not the conversation that Craig just had hasn't been reflected on part 3.
Choose the same thing.
Okay.
It's another way of doing it.
all right, Councillor Dean.
If a new shop, I just want to clarify this on, with my understanding, I don't know whether it's right or not. But if an empty shop that's been empty for a little while and someone comes into it with a similar sort of shop, whatever following the guideline, then there's no requirement for any change to parking whatsoever. It only occurs when there is a change in use sufficient to trigger that requirement in the thing. So that's why presumably that I don't know how To Be Nourished should be involved in a car park then, because there was a cafe there before.
No, that was my fault. It was for the To Be Nourished, and next to it's the.
Yeah, sorry. Well, see that's the kind of thing where it's a different activity. So there will be a fair number of changes in the main street that just happen because they're similar sorts of shops. So the number of people that have to pay $50 mightn't be too high.
Mightn't be too many. No.
Through the chair, just to be absolutely clear, Councillor Dean, if the new shop was going in and they added floor space, that would be different. But if it was going from a consulting room to a shop, same building, any changeover would only trigger the $50 number. That type of situation. It's the change in floor area.
Or if you do a pop-up, that's what everyone's doing now. They're doing a pop-up and they do it for 3 months and they pop out again, and then they don't have all the problems. That's what everyone.
All right,
That's what they're doing now. So
we've got a motion that's been moved and seconded. You speaking for or against the motion?
A question, if I may. No, it's just because there is some potential scenario that's in between the two, where and I think it happened with the pop, that a pop that does not change the floor area, does not do anything, but it changes the occupancy by applying for a different liquor license or something. And I think something to that effect happened, and then they were required to have all these extra car parking. So to which of the two would that apply? Is they're not changing floor area, but it's some sort of a change of land use thing that they require more car parking. Like, is it clear enough? I did read through the policy and I wasn't 100% sure if it's clear enough there is some scenarios that would be hard to judge which way it falls into. And I want to make sure that in that scenario as well, they only have to pay $50 and not the $2,500.
To be clear, it's where the planning and design code applies, so there'd be a change in land use or a development involved. But I think in the case you're thinking about, there was a change or an expansion of the floor area. That was part of it.
Councillor, Darryl.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I think that's a good innovation in terms of a pop-up, and that's where some change to either a small budget to enable that type of stuff, where council can effectively waive or cover those fees. And I think there's a bit of work to be done in the economic development space in terms of what is our modern thoughts on activation of main streets and how we can bring that into a policy setting. So I think it's been a good debate, and I think we could take that offline and have a look at how we can position some of that.
Thanks, Darryl. Righto. If there are no other questions, I'll put the motion that we, as it is on the screen, all in favour? Against? That is carried. Do you want to call for a division, Colin? Thank God for that. Good on you. Right. Well, that's been a long issue, that one, so it's good to get it underway. Right. We now move to 13.3, the CEO's May report. Darryl.
Thank you, through the mayor. Interesting, when you asked before about the Gawler River, I got a response about 5:18. It came through to my computer. It's a commitment to have an ongoing discussion with myself, and it's also an invitation for me, the mayor, and elected members if they want to go out and come view the dam and have a look and a tour. But it is a commitment for some discussion. It goes for about 3 pages. I haven't had a chance to read it, but I'll distribute that to elected members probably tomorrow. So watch this space on that one. Meetings as presented, happy to take any questions on them in terms of some of the activities that I've been doing since my arrival. Is we've had a couple of workplace surveys, which is a bit of a pulse check of the organisation. They were outstanding. As a general manager group and management team, we're committed to closing the loop of that. So had around 6 sessions with staff. It's been pretty good so far. Looking to put in some focus groups to look at, I guess, contributing to solutions around organisational culture, and happy to bring I'll brief the council in due course on that once we've got a bit of maturity around what we're doing. So I think it's important that we close it out with both the staff as well as elected members, because ultimately you're responsible for providing me with the resources to address any suggestions for improvement.
That's the Simon.
I'm not sure if you need to take that into the confidential session of our meeting, but I would be interested in the workshop at the 0.25 workshop, Hickenbottom Group.
Yeah, through the chair, we've had a commitment from them in the via the mayor, and we're looking to put a briefing with the proponents' consultants to debrief council hopefully next week. I would recommend, if it's possible, that we keep the Tuesday for consistency with this council, so that we try and put our workshops on one day, so we know that there could potentially be a workshop and they're keen to engage with the council. So that's probably the better avenue. And then if you've got any questions, straight to the proponent and to us. Assuming they can make the Tuesday, otherwise they are committed to doing that. We have to be very quick because their facilitators are from overseas. So,
thanks, Darryl. No further questions? There's a recommendation that the report be received. Someone like to move that way? Councillor Lynette. Seconded. Councillor Peter. All in favour? It's carried. Thank you. Delegations update. These are some lovely report from Corey. Would you like to make some comments, Corey, or any questions? I'm sure it's not straightforward, but it looks too complicated for us to get into. There's a recommendation there, or would someone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Dean, seconded Councillor Martin. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Okay. All right. Yes. And the CEO's just reminded me that the hours consultation has now been expired. So that comes up later on though, doesn't it? Yep. All right, so we now move to 13.5. Review of control of election signs policy. This is just revokes the current situation, so it's pretty simple. Thanks, Councillor Michael, seconded. Councillor Lynette, all in favour? It's carried, thank you. We then go to supplementary agenda. Amendment of the Code Practice of Meeting Procedures. This was put out to community consultation. There's been no community consultation. Any discussion? There's a recommendation on the board. Would someone like to, Councillor Michael, seconded? There are seconds of that. Councillor Simon, all in favour? That's carried, thank you. 13.7. Again on the supplementary agenda, page 7. The draft 26-27 annual business plan, budget and long-term financial plan public consultation update. Kyron.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I'll just talk to a few key points and also provide an update on submissions received since the agenda was published late, mid Friday. So public consultation closed 5 p.m. yesterday. I guess you could say it's been limited engagement overall. So we had 7 attendees at the Kapunda drop-in session, none at Hewitt and none registered for the online session on the Thursday of that week. We had 2 submissions received prior to this particular agenda being published. They were from Damien Ritchie and Barossa Australia. And we did receive 1 additional submission late Friday, which was packaged up and forwarded via email to elected members today. That one was from Roseworthy Property Proprietary Limited. And you've got a hard copy of that submission on your table. So I do suggest that if the council moves a motion similar to the recommendation that was in the report, that you at least receive that submission and note it as well, because it was received within the public consultation period. Just in terms of some of the outcomes, I guess summarising the feedback received at the drop-in session, it was reasonably constructive, mainly community focused. So there was discussion around community services, predominantly accessibility into council sort of buildings and facilities and around the town, use of council's assets, so those sort of some of the vacant buildings in Kapunda that council currently owns, and also subjects relating to transport, so community transport that the council would be familiar with and has been sort of an ongoing advocacy issue for some time, and local infrastructure, so footpaths around towns, getting to and from places of interest, and in particular some of the roads under the responsibility of DIT. So I guess importantly, the feedback did support some of the inclusions in the business plan, particularly around the actions for preparing an advocacy plan, together with completing the asset rationalisation study, which is, I think, going to be an important body of work for the council moving forward. A bit about the Barossa Australia submission. So they requested reinstatement of the funding partnership with council to match Barossa Council's contributions. That's an amount of 42,000 that they are requesting. I guess a key point to that, Barossa Australia does provide what the council might consider to be discretionary services around tourism, but they also do support the viticulture and the primary production sector, and also regional economic outcomes. So council might want to have regard to that. So I guess from our perspective, the administration's perspective, it's a valid submission, but at the same time, the removal of that budget did form part of a broader financial sustainability measure. So our recommended approach is to no change at this point, but potentially review that as a funding opportunity and a partnership opportunity potentially at the first budget review if the financial position of the council improves, and that way council can sort of consider that with other, along with other priorities. I mean, there's some reasonable reductions to services in this budget, so council might want to reconsider those if there's a favourable movement at budget review. I guess the last matter, last submission around Roseworthy Property Proprietary Limited, that submission was largely in relation to the proposal around differential rates for primary production land, specifically within the strategic employment zone down at Roseworthy. So I guess the key issue there is not whether this policy position is designed to incentivise development, but how land is treated where development is constrained by infrastructure or staging, which would seem to be the case for that particular property. In terms of financial impact, so that particular property would be paying an additional close to $15,000 in rates under the differential rating proposal. And in that zone as a whole, so the strategic employment zone across Kingsford and Roseworthy, ratepayers would be paying an additional just over $20,000 in rates as part of this proposal. So I guess the main thing for council to consider is whether it proceeds under the current proposal and whether the rebate framework is sufficient, or whether employment land should be treated differently or excluded. So there's sort of some of the options put forward in the email today. So there's the continue as proposed approach. More than likely we'll receive an application for a rebate from that particular property, and that would be a report to council saying here's the merits behind that. Do you want to provide that through the discretionary provision or not? The other option is to exclude the strategic employment land from the proposal, and I can present some draft wording around that if anyone wishes to sort of move that way to amend the current recommendation. And that obviously has some impacts to revenue, or if the council wishes to proceed by not rating by locality at all, and abandon the process that the journey that the council has been on. I've got some wording for that as well if the council is of mind, but effectively at this point, administration's recommending to proceed and deal with any rebates if and when they're applied for.
Councillor Collins?
Just a question. I thought we got rid of the rebates.
No, this is the rebates for land that can't be used. It can't be developed.
Oh, okay.
So and the interesting point is that we know the land that's can't be developed, and yet we're rating it, and then we're asking for them to give a rebate back, even though we know that they actually can't do any development because the infrastructure's not there. So,
but what we could tell them though, if they don't want to play prime production rate, we could put it back to prime production land and take it away from industrial land. If they wanted to, you know. So.
They could rezone it back.
Yeah.
It's largely a timing issue. So, and I guess the submission does talk to timing. And as an example, we're aware that there's no SA water funding to service that particular property in the regulatory period coming up. So they could be waiting 5+ years before they've got trunk infrastructure in place that would allow them to divide the land and develop it.
Haven't they got a sign up though? So when's that? So that's 5 years away, that sign, is it?
Currently, without any change to SA Water's position on it.
Yeah, look, thank you. The reason it was suggested the first is to put it through, although it is a bit of double handling, you're rating it, we know and understand it, but you're putting it through to the rebate, is that will take a whole class out, and there's others in that class. Whilst we believe it to be the case for this, if you were to take it out, then what if that changes down the track and the SA Water put their infrastructure there and they choose deliberately not to progress over 10 years, 5 years? So the annual rebate at least gives that proof to come back to the council, talk about what's going on, understand the problems and help be part of the solution. So it provides that nexus to the council with some regularity. It's a little bit of an administrative burden, but it doesn't take a whole class out. So with that in mind, I think to continue on the journey and thank them for their submission, but steer them into that process is probably the way forward. It doesn't take a whole class out. Although the class is only 2 properties, as I understand it.
Councillor Simon.
Yeah, I'm happy to just proceed as is. Just one question for clarification. In the end, that rebate, the council would have to decide on if we give the rebate or not. It's a decision of council in the end. It comes in front of council and then we decide if we want to give the rebate or not.
Yeah, through the mayor. So the CEO does have delegation to provide that discretionary rebate. However, our proposal for this particular rating proposal is to provide a report to council. Correct. So that would be the process, as we'd report that up to council.
And not just a report, a decision of council that says yes or no.
Correct.
Okay, so you're moving the recommendation as is?
Yes.
Thanks, Councillor Simons. Is there a seconder? Councillor Dean? Is there any further discussion? There's no.
Through the mayor. So I'll just confirm that point 2 has been changed from what was published in the agenda, just to acknowledge that there's been 3 written submissions received. So that third one that was received on Friday. And because it wasn't an attachment, it just refers to that under point 2 as together with the Roseworthy Property Proprietary Limited submission received Friday, the 22nd of May. So that captures receiving that officially.
Okay, if that's the case, I'll now put the motion. All in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. So we now move to the questions on notice. 14. Are there any questions? There's no questions on notice. Are there any questions without notice? Councillor Ellison.
Mayor Bill. Had a letter to the ward councillors from a resident in Attio Road in Gawler. That's one of the last roads in the centre structure of Gawler that's not sealed. And she's written to the 3 of us asking for council to have a look at sealing that moving forward. SA Water, with their digging of the area, a lot of traffic's now coming down there from the school and has made that road hard to drive on. The graders have been out, I understand. But yes, she has raised that with us to look for future sealing of Attio Road. It's not a huge section, but yeah, I'd like to put that into the minutes and moving forward on a future.
Are there many houses on that road? Or was it?
Yeah, there are quite a few houses. The 3 of us just had a bit of a look at that just before the meeting started. So, yeah, I would think that the 3 of us are in the same thought pattern. That yeah, that would be something that we'd need to look at. Like I said, it is the last one in that section. Look, I know Noddle Road and whatnot aren't, but within that core section down by Xavier there, because it runs through, that is, yeah, the last road. So I said I would bring that to council this evening for future.
Megan, is any knowledge when that's to be looked at, or was it you'll leave to later, answer it later? Or?
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor Ellison, for raising that. It would be helpful. We could have that information, and it might be appropriate if we provide a report for elected members, and elected members can then decide when they would like to see that in the program if we provide all the costings to you.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions without notice? Okay, we now have motions on notice. We have a motion from councillor Kennelly. Annual business plan budget 26-27 Blight Ward.
I have a concern about for us as a councillor in that we're over $2 million in the red. And I think that as a matter of urgency, we should be examining council debt and suggesting ways to reduce it. Now, I make some suggestions that are there. I don't know if council should appoint a committee of its members to do this, or whether it should, whether the council administration should do it and then return it to a council meeting. But I think it's abundantly clear in Kapunda that we've got two properties, substantial properties, that are just sitting there, and we need to do something about it.
Thanks, councillor Peter. Darryl, would you like to make some comments?
Yeah, thank you. I think there's a bit to unpack with that in terms of we've just spent a couple of months now working on what a budget is, and the budget is what forecasts the deficit. So the $2 million in the red is deficit. Now, what portion goes to debt is the question, and what debt we're carrying. So there's different parts there. I think you'll be pleased that one of the projects we've got in this year's budget is asset rationalisation. So we're going to bring in an expert to have a look at all of our different assets, what we should retain, what should we sell, what should we activate. So that will go a good way of maybe resolving some of that asset. And that's certainly what we committed to the representatives in Kapunda at the information session. The other part, as far as a committee, you've already got a committee that exists for the purpose of looking at council's financial position and performance, long-term financial plan, treasury management. That's the audit and risk committee. So you've got a couple of options if you want to pursue that. One of the other options as well is I spoke to Davin from LGFA, Local Government Finance Authority. He often comes and presents to council in terms of debt levels, borrowing capacity, and some of the things that councils are doing, and to have a good look at our position to provide some advice. We could potentially, he's agreed that he would come out if council's interested in that. The 9th of June might be a good day when we've got a SCOSA audit and risk committee, and potentially that, if we're going to do it, make an evening of it, for lack of a better term. But you do have some options. If you do want to do that, then I believe it should be referred to the audit and risk committee to be able to dissect it and make a recommendation to council. Alternatively, you could have a subcommittee, but what I would recommend is that we trust in the process, which is the asset rationalisation. We've just done the journey of budget. We've made a deliberate decision to be around that $2 million in arrears this year, but it does get better after year 3 and then forward. So that would be my recommendation, is we trust what's there. But if you did want to pursue it, I would say that you would go through the audit and risk committee. If you wanted more councillors on it, then the audit and risk committee still has to drive it as a subcommittee, because that exists by statute for that purpose.
I think your advice is good, and perhaps I jumped the gun a bit by wanting a subcommittee of council, because ultimately council is the committee.
That's right. Thanks. Councillor Peter, do you want to continue with your motion?
No, I'm prepared to take the advice of this.
Thanks, councillor Peter. Thank you. I think it's it actually came up at the Kapunda meeting, and Darryl answered that about the need to asset realisation was quite a feature that was discussed quite heavily. So
yeah, through the chair, we'll start putting our collective thoughts on what that looks like and go out to tender as soon as possible. And again, that will be reports that come before the council.
Okay. Any motions without notice? Okay, so we'll now move to 18 confidential items. And you're frozen. It was unanimous. No, it wasn't moved. Oh, you can't move. You're right now? Okay, so we now move to confidential. And there's a list of people there who are allowed to be in here and those that aren't. Would someone like to move that recommendation that we move, Councillor Michael? Seconded, Councillor Simon, all in favour? Thank you. While the girls do their magic.